because I'm a Virgo, Scorpio.
That's a fact.
Joe don't
So
even understand what I'm
subscribe to
saying.
this
I'm
channel if you
talking
haven't
Arabic
already.
right now.
uh,
All right, my loves. So welcome back to our channel. We are here. We're doing things differently today. We told you guys that we were gonna come through and just kind of do like a get to know you kind of situation. And that's what we doing. So if you are new here, I'm Intisar, but you can call me Zar. And this is Joseph. He's
hey.
my husband. And we're here to talk all about us today. So first things first,
Well, we
honey.
had y'all had some. What happened was let's
Go ahead, backpedal,
to give
pussy
them
pie.
some
Go
backstory.
ahead, daddy.
We had asked if y'all had any questions for us to throw them in and throw them in the comments or throw them on one of the videos or whatever. And we got a bunch of good questions.
Very good questions.
So we're gonna answer those questions.
But first, what are you drinking tonight, honey? Do you know?
This I'm just drinking this.
Oh, what's that?
It's a Pinot Noir. It's a new one.
You like? Can I taste?
From Rex something.
I don't like red
You can
wine.
see the bottle over there. I can't see it. Rex something Pinot Noir. It's
Nope.
just a new brand. I never tried it before, so I was just trying it.
I'm a basic bitch. I like white wine.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty basic.
So I don't know what I'm drinking. My husband made me a
You're
drink.
drinking a gin. It's a gin drink. It's basically
Ooh,
a little bit of seltzer with gin,
ooh, salsa.
some lemon,
Hmm.
and some cranberry.
I feel like my lash is falling off. All right, well, let's get into it. Are you going to navigate the questions, and we just going to go from there?
Yeah, we can
What
just
works?
hit them down.
All
Yeah, yeah.
right.
Yeah. So the
So,
first question was, "What is your age?"
and I'm not answering that question.
Uh-huh.
And he knows why I'm not answering that question.
Well,
I'm going to say this.
um,
We are millennials. And I
okay.
think and I'm saying that because we both, and I don't want to say like we're both in a business where like, our age and wah. But I think, I'm just kind of like old school where I just don't think you ask women their age. Like I'm old enough to drink, carry a gun, drive. You know what I mean? Get married. So you could do the math.
Yeah, we can say
We're millennials.
we're late 20s, early 30s. We can say that.
Okay, I like that, Daddy. I like
Yeah.
that. Well, what y'all should know is that on this birthday, I can tell you this. This birthday, I will be 25.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I will let you know that. And I've been celebrating. Joe has been celebrating my 25th birthday for years now. So there you go.
I guess so.
Right? So there's that.
The next one was, "Are you religious?" So I actually come from a religious family.
This is a good question
My
too.
my uh my father is a pastor. Um and I kind of grew up in the church. But to answer the question, I wouldn't categorize myself as religious. I would categorize myself as spiritual, because I think there's a lot of different connotations that come with being religious, and from somebody being on the inside and also the outside, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Meaning like certain religious people stay within their religious bubble, if that makes any sense. Like all of their friends
Mm-hmm.
go to
Mm-hmm.
the synagogue or mosque or church or whatever, and their family is all in it, their friends are all in it, and they don't really associate with people who aren't a part of their religion. That's not my story. I grew up in the church, and then I was a young working musician in the church, so I was also playing in like clubs um and stuff like that. And so I early on got to experience the world outside of the church bubble.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always known both sides of it. I think from the inside, I think from the outside, there's a lot of things that come with, oh, you're religious, right? Like you do this every
Mm-hmm.
week for your religion, or you believe that people who don't go to your that don't subscribe to your religion are this, like a lot of bad stigmas that I like to avoid. And also from being inside the church, I know that being quote unquote religious can lead you down a path kind of stuck in tradition, and a lot of people in certain religions are very close minded to other ideologies or other ways of life or other spiritualities because they are quote unquote religious. So I don't like to subscribe to that. I do have a religious background, being a PK. PK is short for pastor's kid. But I myself, I would categorize myself as a more spiritual, if that makes any sense.
I think our household is spiritual. I think that we pray together. I think that we both, I don't know. I think I think that I definitely, my father was very deeply rooted in Islam as we were growing up,
So she
and
also came from a religious
yeah,
household.
I did. And just a different, you
Just a
know,
different religion.
just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
different religion. And so I came, my father was, we grew up in a Muslim household, period. And now I just believe, I also was raised by a good witch. Like I always call my mama that, and my grandmama and everybody else that, and all the women in my family. So I think now I subscribe more to, the earth. And I know y'all gonna think that's crazy, but
Spirituality.
I'm just super spiritual. I
Yeah, that's
believe
what it
in
is.
the sun, the moon, and the stars. I believe that, we are gods, and because we are descendants of ones. And, I think that there's obviously powers beyond us that help us get through the day, get through our lives, or whatever the case may be. And we give praise to those. And I feel like, I think that it is important to have a foundation of spirituality in your religion. I mean, in your relationship. But do you think that you have to be? I'm going to piggyback. Do you think that you have to be? A lot of people talk about being equally yoked, or like they couldn't marry somebody outside of their faith. What do you think
No,
about?
I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that. I think that I I respect people coming from all different types of religious backgrounds. I
Yeah.
know people who come from all different types of religious background. I'm friends with people, like good friends with people who come from all different types of religious backgrounds. And I think at the end of the day, um whatever you subscribe to, at the core of it, we all kind of saying the same stuff, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
studied multiple religions, or you've been adjacent to people from multiple religions, it's a lot of commonalities in it, both good and bad, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. And I think that at the end of the day, whether you pray to Allah, or you pray to God, or you pray to the sun and moon and the stars, we all praying to a higher power, and we all kind of subscribing to the same thing
Yeah.
at the core of it. So I don't think that some people do. Some people, it's a tradition thing where they're like, I can't marry outside of my religion. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's a part of the cloak of the word religious.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can't have
That you can't
religion
really
without
like get down with.
tradition.
And
You know what
I
I
think
mean?
tradition is important. I do think tradition is important in
Some
certain, right,
traditions.
certain
Yeah,
aspects of
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
do think is really important, but I also, I wonder what you guys think about the importance of religion and spirituality in your relationship. And not to say like you're supposed to be like the bull Kyle and Shayna where you a fucking atheist,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, if somebody just doesn't necessarily subscribe to the same thing as you, do you think that you have the ability to find love there? I date.
I think you do.
I think you do. I think it's something to just recognizing. Sometimes it is enough that you just recognize that certain things are just beyond your power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when, but you know what? Let me. This is weird. In a previous life, it's funny how you meet people and they only see themselves. And I do this too, like as a source of power. You know what I mean? Like I am a god in my mind. So, people saying y'all gonna think this is really bad, but this is my truth. And you tell me if I'm bad for saying this. A lot of times people tell me I'm blessed, right? Like if I'm because I work a certain job or I do certain things, people tell me I'm blessed. And not to say that that's a terrible thing to say to somebody because I don't think it is. But I think that this is going to sound so bad what I'm about to say. I think to say that I'm blessed to me takes the power of all that I've done from me. Because to me, when I think of a blessing, it's something that is, and this is like something that I'm working on. To me, when I think of a blessing, it's something that is beyond me that happened. Does that make sense? That I probably set some stuff up in the background, but it set me up for something major, as opposed to all those little arduous days and nights where I was working fucking hard to get to certain spaces that I deserve to be. You know what I mean? Like I don't like the blessing to me is in like greater things.
Yeah,
Does that make
that
sense?
makes sense. I think the bigger theme here is like you mentioned like people saying like, oh, I am a guy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the bigger thing is, even if you're quote unquote religious, if you, I know like in a church, growing up in a church, we say that there God is in us, right? Or we're made from his image, we're
Mm-hmm.
made from
Mm-hmm.
God.
And that's
It,
all I'm saying.
how can you not be a God if you are made in the image of God? How can you, if God is in us, then how can you not, right? If we have a child and I say, you know, the child says, I'm a Connor. Well, yeah, you're a Connor because you came from us. So
Right.
you are a Connor, right? So I think that's the bigger idea of it. Like it's nothing wrong with thinking that you do have a big part to play in the life that you lead. It's not uh excommunicating any larger power or
Yeah.
spiritual power
But
per
I mean
se.
that in a bad way too. So if anything bad happens to me, I always take accountability and responsibility for that as well. Like I don't, that's not like any demon forces at play, anything like that. That's me. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whatever I'm manifesting or negative, whatever I'm bringing on at that time, I'm representative of that as well. And I think that and as much as I want, that's all I'm saying. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, I just think about it a little bit differently. But like I told y'all, I'm a good witch, so don't even try me. Now,
So the next question is, where are you from?
easy answer, Philly.
We both we're both from Philly.
We both from Philly, but Joe has really lived a really amazing, not amazing life, but well, yeah. I think that you've had really great opportunities, and he went to school in Boston. He went to like one of the um best music schools, right? Music universities in America, and then moved to LA.
Yeah,
I'm
so we
telling your
so we
story.
so we are so we are both from Philly, born
Yeah.
and raised. I when I graduated high school, I went to school at Berkeley College of Music in Boston, and then was there. I was in Boston for 5 years, graduated in 4 years, stayed an extra year to figure out where I was going to go, and then ended up moving to LA. And then Czar went to school. You could tell him where you went to school.
I went to University of Pittsburgh and then came back to Philly, lived a full life, almost became the mayor. And that's not true, but I say that all the time because I was that bitch. Let me shut up. But uh got to the point I had a transition in my life and a decision needed to be made whether or not I was going to stay in Philly or not. And about what was it, 4 years ago, I decided maybe I should move to LA.
Yeah. So that leads us to how we met.
Yeah.
So we will both tell this story from our
Okay,
perspective,
go
right?
ahead. Go ahead, Daddy.
So we both went to a school in Philly called Gant,
Mm-hmm.
uh, short for Girard Academic Music Program. It's a magnet school in Philadelphia, a music magnet school, and which Zara used to play the
Uh-uh.
what?
No, I'm
What you
kidding.
want to tell him?
I used to play the
Yeah.
bassoon.
So because people might
I'm a
be
double
wondering,
reed
like, oh, she went
player.
to the magnet school too. Yes. So
Everybody
she
asked
was,
that
yeah.
question.
So she
Yeah.
played the bassoon and she
Yeah.
was in orchestra and band and all that.
Yeah.
And so we first one were around each other because of that, because
Mm-hmm.
we were both in band and both in orchestra and all of that good stuff. Marching band, all that. And then we used
You
to have
smiling?
these. So we used to have these little random occurrences that wasn't so random because I planned them. Where we would be getting our instruments.
Oh, you going that? Wait a minute. No, I think we gotta move back though.
Where,
Oh no, go ahead. You tell your story, Vic.
tell me, where did I move? Where did
Because
I skip something?
I don't know. I remember. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
What did I skip?
Because I'm thinking about, and I guess you'll give me the opportunity, obviously, to say my perspective as well. But I think it started before the. Maybe it didn't. Maybe you're right. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So
Sorry.
we would be having these little random occurrences preparing for band. So
Mhm.
all of our instruments was in this one room in a closet, and class would end, and then we everybody all the musicians would have to go down to the room, gather your stuff, and so we're all kind of all over the place getting stuff out of this closet. We getting drums and sticks, and she's getting her instrument, and I will always kind of catch her in the closet and just kind of like say my piece, flirt a little bit or whatever. And it got to the point where like I started gearing up for that part of the day. So like when I knew like, oh, it's band time, it's rehearsal time, like I'm like, let me get myself right, because I know I'm gonna go down and have this face-to-face time with her. You know what I'm saying? So that
I feel like you're flirting with me right now.
I'm just being honest. So that kind of compounded and went a little bit further. And to the point where like every time I would see her like in the hallways and stuff, I would call her out, say her whole name, like Zar Wilson
Yeah.
or whatever. And I don't know how that became my little flirt too.
It worked though.
It
That
was.
worked.
Yeah. So um I was in the school, actually, to back up a little bit. I was in the school from fifth, so the school went from fifth
Mm-hmm.
to 12th. So to answer the direct question of how we met, Zar came into the school in middle school. So
Ninth grade, high
right.
school.
Sorry,
Yeah.
high school. Yeah, you're right. The school went from but Zar came in from in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we met. I was at the school, and then she came in, and I'm like, who's this new girl? And she was brown.
He was mean to me.
Was I mean to you?
You were just like not like me.
I
So
was trying to flirt and probably doing a bad job at it.
it's funny because we were actually a really tight knit class, if I'm being honest,
Because
right?
a very small school.
It's
So
a very small school.
The high school total was 500 students total.
The full school total was 500.
Sorry, the full
Fifth
school
to 12th
was 500. So that's how small the
Right.
school was.
Our graduating class was like 48
Yeah.
people.
So there was only two classes
Yeah.
of each grade. It was ninth grade and 10th
It was
grade.
9-1 and
9-1, 9-2, 10-1,
Yeah.
10-2, 11. So
Yeah.
each
And
grade
if you're in
only had
second
two
place,
classes.
you lost.
Right.
You're a
That
first
part.
place loser.
Right. Right.
I'm kidding. I love all the people in
Yeah, true.
I mean in 9 too. I love you all.
Yeah.
But no, we so I don't, it's funny. I remember Joe was like really like a commodity. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was tall, he was handsome, he was chocolate.
She didn't like me because other people liked me.
And that might, and if we're being honest, maybe.
That was it.
Maybe, yeah. Like I don't think that that's like far fetched. And I think that at the time I had a friend who liked Joe, or at least I could kind of tell she liked him a little bit. You know what I mean? She might not have said it out loud a lot, but I could tell she kind of liked him, but he wasn't really giving her that same energy. Maybe
At all.
maybe shut up at all. He kissed in the mouth though, y'all.
No, she kissed me. And
The point is I remembered it.
Yeah.
But no, I think that the first couple years we were a tight class. So even though I could say like, oh, I didn't like Joe, as peers, I didn't have no problem with him. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? But I do think that it was kind of like He fucking annoying.
Yeah,
Did
that's
that
what it
make
was.
sense?
Yeah.
So, but I don't think I didn't think it was like a bad guy or whatever. But I remember it was like at the end of one year, you were like just talking to me, like just randomly having random ass conversations with
Well,
me.
I would try. I mean, every time I saw her, I would try to like spark a conversation, like say something, even if it was just her name, like even if I was just
Right.
saying her name in the closet, and she used to be like, I used to watch her like carry this big ass instrument, like walking down the hallway
That's the truth.
and like switching, and I would be like, damn, like she was so small, but at the same time, like it felt like when you watch the cartoons and they have the big busty women on there, and it's like whoosh, whoosh. That's what it was in my mind. Like when she was holding like a fucking bassoon, it in my mind it was happening in slow
Oh,
motion.
that's
It was
sweet,
like
babe.
whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Um,
But it felt like really, I think that I grew up and um when you come from like a certain place, eh, I don't think I had ever even heard my name. Like from like my peer, everybody called me like NT.
yeah,
My granny called me Indy. Like, you know what I mean? Like my mama and dad, my baba and Joe was probably the only people who really called me Intizar. You know what I mean? Some need to call me that too. But some need to Rashida. But I think that it's so valuable to hear your name and culturally, like when you name your child, my name means success and triumph. So when you name your children so intentionally, you want to make sure you're speaking that into them. And that's what I kind
oh
of felt
yeah,
like
for
Joe
sure.
was doing. I felt seen. I felt seen, and I was kind of dorky. And
Only in her mind.
to
Yeah,
me, you
only
see,
in her
I
mind.
qualified it.
Yeah,
To me, I was kind of dorky, and Joe was kind of like big man on campus. So it was kind of like weird too. So maybe I even felt like I don't know if I ever really thought about it, but maybe if I did, I probably felt like this just wouldn't be a thing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But it was he was always really nice, and I remember us. We used to like make out all the time, but
yeah.
I liked him.
Randomly.
Like, but we also used to talk all the time. Like,
Yeah,
we would go home and then we would talk on the phone all night. And I remember talking to Kristen and was like, it might have been like January or something like that. This is like before prom. And I'm like, he needs to ask me to be his girlfriend.
yeah, yeah,
I'm like, he needs to fucking ask me to be his girlfriend. Like, what's up? Like, we've been talking. And by that time, we had really been talking. Like, it was
yeah,
like months. Like, it was like the end of the previous year, all the way through up until like January when I
yeah.
was just like, all right, enough is the fucking enough. Like, I'm going to be his girlfriend.
And that's when the Denny's plan started
And that's when the Denny's plan started. And we
getting
was
in action.
inseparable after that, to be honest.
Yeah, the Denny. So I was feeling that itch, and I was like,
Were you feeling it or did you feel pressure?
no, 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 no. I felt, I could tell that like you could tell that I could tell what type time you was feeling.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think like, okay, well, how am I going to do this? Because I didn't want to just, you know, ass in the hallway or something, or at
Yeah.
lunch, right? So then I was like, you know what? I'll do something fly. Take her to Denny's.
He did. It was
Take her to
fly. And he
breakfast.
was driving.
Oh yeah,
He was
yeah,
like one of the first of us, like in our group, to get
yeah.
his license and shit. So like, he was fly, whatever.
So I went to pick her up. Um,
Yes.
her her auntie thought I was a drug dealer back
Oh my
then.
gosh, she did. She
Like,
like every time he come around, he in a different car.
yeah, I'm like, because I have my parents have two cars, and
No, literally.
I gotta take whoever car they is not using. Like, so I picked her up. We go to the Denny's, and then that's when I popped the question at the
Yeah,
Denny's,
he
which is
did.
why we ended up getting engaged at a Denny's.
Right.
I was trying to bring it full circle there.
But
Yeah,
it was nice. It was nice.
yeah. So
It was
that's
nice.
how we met.
Yeah.
So the
Or the origin story.
right. The next one was, how did you know he or she was the one? So they say, like, especially for men, like when like, you know what I mean? And you don't really understand it. It just sounds hella cliche
Yeah.
until until it happens. and you just know. And I feel like I knew in high school, and it was to the point where like people would tell me that I was crazy. And I
Yeah.
mean like adults, right? Like I remember, I will never forget this day.
Oh God.
I remember when, you know,
We had an argument.
we had an argument,
Yeah.
and I got pulled in a room by one of
Hmm.
our teachers, and our teacher was talking to me about this, talking to me about, you know, she saw that I was really like, emotional about it. I was really bent out of shape and I was really turned up. And she was like, listen, like, you're just in high school. Both of you guys are young. You're gonna leave here and forget about her and forget about this whole situation, forget that this ever happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna move on with your life and live a life free of all of this. This is only major to you right now because you can't see past this moment because you're young. And she said, you know, it's like, do you honestly think you're gonna marry her? And I said, yes. And I remember her saying that's like that's not that's not happening. Like we hear that all the time. Like, young people come in, they have these relationships and blah blah blah. And then y'all move on and forget about each other. And I was just thinking like, I know something you don't know. Like, you know what I mean? I also in a very similar to Zara have a thing of like,
You are
you
a
can tell
master
me
manifester.
you can tell me that something is too hard or something is not really possible, and I'm not gonna verbally, like, I'm not one of the, like, I'm not the
I'm
Kanye
not going
West
to
type,
debate
like,
you.
yeah, I'm not gonna verbally be like, I'm gonna do this because I'm
Hmm.
Kanye West. Like, Kanye did the whole thing where he was like, I'm Balenciaga, I'm this, I'm like,
Yeah.
but in
But
my
Joe
but
thinks
in my
that.
mind,
Joe
I do
thinks
think that. Like, I
that.
think I'm great. I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna
You are
have
great.
everything that I want to have in life. I think everything that I dream of, all of my goals, I'm gonna get them, and
That's
I've
a
done
fact.
that, and I'm gonna keep doing it. That's what I think. I think like Kanye West. I
And
just don't
he
talk like
has
Kanye
done
West.
that. And I want to affirm that because everything he said he was going to do, he has done.
So I felt that way in high school, and so when she said that to me, it was just like, okay, joke's gonna be on you because that's my wife. You know what I mean? And I that's how I just knew. Now, um, so to answer, how did I know? It was more of that, like, just kind of non-verbal, like it was like a gut thing, like a feeling thing, something that I think that it's the similar to when you are an adult and you feel like, oh, this person is like, I've never felt this way before and blah 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 blah. Like, I think it is dismissed when you're younger because people are like, of course you never felt this way before. You're 5. Like, you haven't met
Right,
anybody, right?
right.
But I was feeling the same, like, oh, I've never felt this way before. This is different. This is weird. This is strange. This is euphoric. This is, go to bed thinking about her, wake up thinking about her, eat, sleep her. Like, you know what I mean? And I think because it happened at
Ooh,
a
we gonna be fucking tonight.
I hope so. But all right. Let me say, um,
I'm ready to go.
so I think that because it happened at a younger age, it's just easily dismissed. Like, yeah, yeah, because you're just girl crazy or you're just young love. But it was the same how y'all, how you guys feel about your husbands when you met him 10 years ago or whatever, or 5 years ago or whatever. I felt the same way. I was just 16. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that was kind of the how I knew.
Well, what do you think? How do you think you got to the place where you were like in our adult lives? Like, we
So
need to
that's a
do this.
okay. So that's the question about the second iteration of us.
Yes,
But
that's
I
what I'm
don't want to
speaking.
go there until you say your piece, and
Okay.
then we can go.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm like a really, I told you I was a good witch. I'm very much into like, mapping charts and doing all that shit. And I think early on I kind of knew, I don't know, I always felt like him and I were like twin flames. Like, you don't always like your opposite. Me and Joe, I'm a Virgo, Joe's a Pisces. If you know the signs, we're polar opposites. You know what I mean? And I think that, and even in our like house of Venus and Jupiter, we're opposites as well. So Venus like rules love, Jupiter more money, I believe. But what I'm getting at is that I think I always felt drawn to him. Like, but I always thought, especially when I was younger, I thought like, yeah, I like love him. And I'm gonna be honest, I attributed that to like, you know, our relationship, having a physical relationship, being a young woman, and your body is changing, and all the hormones and all of this and that. Like I felt so many things so viscerally. No, I'm being, and I
No,
tell you,
no,
I tell
right.
you this shit
Not
all the
yeah.
time. Like
I'm
that's
only
why we used
laughing
to.
because my mom felt the same way
Yeah, and I
back
felt
then.
that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if I felt that way back then. Like back then, I'm like, I'm addicted to this human being. Like I love him. Like Joe was like crack cocaine. Like I needed him. Like you know what I mean. And I think that, but I loved him. I loved every I mean, I love you, but in that moment, I remember how pure and raw and just uncut it was. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't even know when I actually no, I know the moment when I kind of was like, I think I had went through my mind and made a decision that Joe and I were just like twin flames. Sometimes you just have somebody in your life that's supposed to be in your life for a reason in a season, and they're supposed to teach you some things, and you're supposed to move on.
So full disclosure. Sorry.
Go ahead, baby.
You're are you sound
I'm
like you're
kind of
moving it.
moving
Okay,
into
so
the
just let so now
because I don't know that I knew
she's
in high
talking
school.
right. So she's talking now about the second kind of iteration of
Yeah,
us post like high school.
yeah. But I'm saying a large part of knowing he was the one at the time was knowing I was the one. You know what I mean? I think I had went through so many years in this relationship where I just needed him to affirm me and needed him to need me and needed him to want me. And then I just got to the point where I was just like, bitch, you that bitch. Like anywhere you go, like you're that bitch. You add value everywhere the fuck you go. You'll add value here. It'll be a 180. His life will be 100% different. You gotta trust in that, and you just gotta let a motherfucker make a decision on his own. Like I'm not doing that. Like you know what I mean? Because I had been in situations where I realized at that time, as we're moving into our second iteration, I'm coming from a space of being having had experiences with other men and noticing that when men want something, it's just easy. It's like no pretense, no bullshit. They'll just be like, this is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Get down and lay down. Real men. So when we were moving into our second iteration, I had made the decision that I'm not going after this the way that I did, where I was just like, I need you to need me. Like I'm not doing it. Like, you know what I mean? And I was just like, I'm gonna fall back. We just gonna see what happens. I told like even when we got engaged, I told him like I thought we was just hanging out, nigga. Like we was just hanging out. I didn't even expect it. We didn't even really talk about it. Was it a natural progression? Yes. But I thought that I trusted him enough in that stage in my life. I was going through a transition. Trusted him enough where he was like, why don't you just, let's just move in together. And I just was like, I just had faith. Like blind. And if you know me, you know that blind faith is not something that I specialize in. It's not something that I'm really good at. But I just knew in my stomach that I just needed to be where you were. And it kind of like just changed the entire trajectory of my life at that time. So I think that, I knew me and knew where I needed to be. And we aligned, I feel so beautifully. And that's when I just kind of was like, my breath was taken away. Like, okay, we doing this. you know?
So I think I knew, when you talk about the one, right? So now we're talking about our
Yeah.
second iteration,
Yeah.
our adult lives, our adult selves, and moving into marriage. Um, part of it was, like I said, just knowing when I was young, and knowing that a delay in things is not a denial in things.
Mm.
And I think that being in the industry that I'm in, being in the entertainment industry, the music industry, and specifically because it's a dog eat dog shitty industry, um, there's always a lot of delays. And if you are delayed on a goal and you just think it's not going to happen because it hasn't happened in a year or 2 years or 3 years,
Hmm.
you're bound to drizzle. You're
Oh
not gonna
God.
you're not gonna get whatever it is. You're not gonna get on it if you think that you're pressed for time, right?
But he
Um,
told me that too. Patience,
yeah. Um,
but don't be waiting.
so you're, well, I'm just talking about the
No, no, no,
delay
no,
of
no, no,
our,
no, 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 no.
we had
You're right.
a
You're
space,
right.
and time,
You're right.
and I knew I was already conditioned from my professional space to
Hmm.
understand the concept of a maturation process, things taking time. Just because it took longer than X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just means it might take longer. Your story is your story. Denzel didn't get his first role until he was like 35 years old,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I was thinking the same way about our relationship. Like, we met in school and we had time apart,
And we had to
and
have it.
it never meant to me that we weren't going to still end up together. So part of
You
it,
didn't think there was a time we wouldn't end up together?
oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course I did. I think in the back of my mind, it was still that thing of like, there is still a possibility because
Joe
neither
is
one of us is dead.
relentless.
Yeah, like,
Joe
you know
is
what I mean? So
relentless.
I think that that was part of it. The second part of it was, like she said, going through life being apart,
Hmm.
man, you almost learn more about what you had when you don't have it, right? And so I think that
And shout out
I
to all the
say
ones.
I say shout out to all the ones. Your death was not in vain.
Exactly.
Um, and I think that you really learn more about what you had when you don't have it, and the opportunity to get it back after experiencing that is a blessing, ironically, right? To me, right? I think
It
that
is. Now that is a
that's a
blessing.
blessing.
That is a blessing.
I think that we learn a lot from our mistakes. We learn a lot from failure, right?
Yeah.
And I think that for me, the minute I was out in the world and being grown and dating and being single, I knew that was super confirmed, because when you're young, you still don't have that confirmation. Like, you know that because I am a dreamer, and because
And
I
he a
feel
hopeless
things, and
romantic
yeah.
too,
So you know
which
that
is a good way to be.
because of that, but you don't really. It's not confirmed because you haven't lived life yet.
Yeah.
And then you live life, and you're like, no, that was love. That was real love. That was something very different from what a lot of people are experiencing.
Hmm.
And it's something that the older I got, the more I realized it's something that not people are going to be born on this earth, and they're going to die on this earth and not have experienced what I experienced, right? And so the older I got, the more I knew, to answer the question. Like, the more it drove home, I knew. The more time we spent apart, the more I knew. The more experience I had with other relationships, and I mean good
Hmm.
relationships,
Hmm.
I knew,
Hmm.
because you can know, like, this is good, but this isn't that.
Yeah.
And that,
And shout out to all of them, because
yeah,
that's some
death
real
was not in
shit.
vain. So that, I think, is
That's some real
how
shit.
I wrap up the question of how I knew that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that you're right. I think that Joe has, as far as like the one I didn't know, because Joe is such a dreamer. I'm more the pragmatic one of the both of us, believe it or not. And Joe is really, and I don't even want to say a dreamer, because he is so much of a doer as well. But he thinks so big, and can manifest beyond. I'm not really good at that at this space. You know what I mean? That's something I'm working on. And to see how he kind of like, I tell people all the time, like, we're in this space that we are because Joe just was like, he had a plan. And sometimes, like, you know what I mean? Like, a man with a plan is a thing, man. Like, he had envisioned something a certain way, and come hell or high water, he ain't give a fuck what he had to do, who he had to blow up. We was gonna be here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think it's something to that. It's something to that. I really, it's funny because I don't know if it was even a matter of you being the one or not the one. I just think that this life was meant for us,
Yeah.
like together. Like, I felt like I feel so deeply that, people say, I told Joe called somebody else's ribs, so I'd be like, don't fucking call me no fucking ribs. But I do think, that's a joke, but I do think that, like, some people are just made for you. And
Yeah.
you can walk this earth every day, and no matter where you are on earth, it'll bring you right back to this person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that that's what I was experiencing. It was almost like fucking Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, no matter where the fuck I was, it was just bringing me back, bringing me back. And I don't even, like I said, I don't even think it was a matter of, because who was the, like, was he the one or not? It just was like, you know, um, we were made with each other in mind.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? I really believe that. So I love Joe, and I think that we complement each other in so many freaking ways. But we have one last question.
Yeah. So the last
That was
question.
a good that was a good question.
That was a good question, and it helped. Good idea with the order. It helped. The order helped it
Oh, okay.
a little
Thank
bit.
you,
Yeah,
Daddy.
yeah, yeah.
When I'm right, I'm
So the
right.
last question was from a single, I believe if I got this right, a single woman in her mid 30s
hmm
said, is there any advice for someone looking to date in Philly specifically, I guess.
Oh, child.
Move. No.
Period. 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 No, you know what I would say though, because that, honest to God, babe, that was my first mind. Like, but you know what? There is, like I told you, I'm a good witch. There is, if you ever do your charts and you figure out, like, you can figure out the location you will thrive in love. If you ever do your birth charts, and I know y'all think I'm a witch and she don't know what the fuck she talking about. Fuck them zodiac signs. I believe in Jesus Christ. And all that stuff. Like, I get it, girl. I get it. But I'm saying, like, if you ever sit down and do your birth chart, it'll literally tell you where you will thrive in certain spaces, in your money and whatever, right? And I think that Philly is a fascinating place. And I think that you should. We're from Philly, so I could say that. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people from Philly, and the men there are fascinating. What I would do if I were you is I dated in Philly. How about that? I did date in Philly.
So here's the thing, right? Zar dated in Philly. I kind of did not. So this
Yeah.
is, yeah, I think for, so my piece on this is gonna be real small because I did not date in Philly. I wasn't really an adult in
Just
Philly.
that just really popped in my mind. I dated in Philly.
Right. I think my piece is going to be just very quickly location, location, location.
That's a fact.
You are going to um you're going to end up with what you surround yourself with,
Period.
right?
Ooh, I was going
So that's all
there.
I'm gonna say. If you're looking for a certain caliber of person, think about where they would be. You are not, if you're looking for, some of the
Wow.
best and brightest, say businessmen, right?
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to be at the club or at time every weekend, right?
Oh,
um
I used to love time.
you know what I mean? They not that there's anything wrong with going to the spots. I'm just saying that think about where you want to be and then put yourself there, right? That's all I'm saying.
So, advice from a woman's perspective, that's number one, right? I do agree with you 1,000%. But I would also say, when I was dating, 51st dates, that was me. Because I was going through this, like, really depressive time. I had decided in that moment that, some people say, like, no, you just need to be alone. No, that's not the type of bitch I am. I needed to go out and just know that I could find love and be in love somewhere else. So I decided on my own that I was having a year of yes. Any man who asked me on a date, specifically, not for my number, said, I want to take you out on this day, I went. I didn't give a fuck if he was ugly, fat, funny, whatever. I really thought that that was very helpful because, one, it set the standard. At the very least, I knew that whomever comes into my space understands that you are investing in me first, right? Like, you know what I mean? So, to your point, I at the time I was working in Rittenhouse Square. Then moving, I had ended up working downtown or whatever the case may be. So I was meeting very what do Kevin very high caliber, high value men. So I experienced a lot of that. But I do think location is everything. Like, I think that
Yeah.
Where I was only dating men who asked. I mean, every single it was weird. Like everybody just was like, "I'm gonna take you out. Like, have you tried the spot? Like, let's go." Like, you know what I mean? And that was my first standard. You're not calling me on the phone. You're not bringing stuff to my house. At the time, I had the cutest little 2 bedroom apartment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not doing these things. And I ended up having like one of the greatest years of like one. I wouldn't say of my life, but it was one of the most formative years for me because it established value. You know what I mean? Like I'm like one of those people who's big on you only worth as much as somebody gonna pay for it. And I know that sounds like really cheap, but that's the reality. You're only worth as much as somebody's willing to invest, right? But you have to invest first. You're the one who establishes the value. So if you're dating, establish your value. No, we don't do Netflix and chill. I Netflix and chill with my husband. Anybody who I ever dated knew that I wasn't even paying for dates. I remember I was on a date with a guy, and it might have been like our fifth or sixth date, and I think he really liked me, but he just was like, "I think it's weird that you don't ever offer to pay," and that was the last motherfucking time he saw me. Don't you ever do me like that, like, like you know what I mean? And not to say that everything is about finances. What I'm getting at is I was setting the tone for what I wanted. You know what I mean? And I think that Philly could be the place that you meet them. But if I'm being honest, I was dating more openly.
But I think I
Okay.
think I think the meat and potatoes of it all is location, right? Like
Yeah.
even even
But
e-
also
even
being
if
open.
even if you are in Philly, let's go micro. Like where are you hanging out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what parts of town are you hanging out in? What you know
Or what's your list look like?
what spots are you? Where do you frequent, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you are going to that's what you're going to end up with. You know what I mean? If
But
you
all
what
I would say don't establish a list of wants. Establish a list of whys, right? So if you want somebody tall, what does him being tall mean to you?
right,
If you want somebody with like with a lot of money, what does him having a lot of money mean to you? What does that actually provide you? You know what I mean? And then once you've done that, figure out your list of deal breakers, because what you find is that, at least what I've found, is that I was dating off of my like list of deal breakers. I was open to love. You know what I mean? Very much open to love. And I mean, I was dating Indian men, Asian men. I was like literally an international beauty. You could see me out with anybody and be like, oh, that's Sikhs, everybody. Like, you know what I mean? But it was just like where I was. I was very much open, and I knew that it might not come in the package that I'm thinking it's supposed to come in, because that's not how the universe the fuck works. It's not
yeah,
always about what I want, but what I need. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think when I was doing that, at the end of that, I ended up getting what I needed at the time. You know what I mean? So
And
I.
I'm gonna say this when they say dress for the job that you want type vibes,
Mm-hmm.
like if you are doing something and you have not seen the results from it that you wanted, you need to do something new, do something different, right? So if you feel like I'm just not finding anything, but your habits are the same, you going to the same spots, you hanging out with the same people, you staying in the same circle, you got a structure that you've been following, but you feel like it's not bearing fruit for you romantically, do something different, change it up, hang out in a different spot, hang
Mm-hmm.
out with some different people.
Hang out with people who are married.
Hang out with
One of
married
the
people, because
valuable
that's what they're gonna do is try to get you fixed up and
that
try to
is
get you
not
right.
up for debate,
That is
bro.
it.
We like I'm telling you, it is so much value with hanging out with people who are in relationships, even
Yeah.
if you're not in one, because they can genuinely, like, they really want to see you be great, and only people in relationship knows the value of it.
But that's a location thing too, right? Like
True, true.
like that's just the hallmark of this answer. Surround yourself by the people that are cut from the cloth that you want to be a part of,
Period.
right? If you want to be an investor, you should be hanging out with the Wall Street guys, right? You shouldn't, like, you're not going to get there from kicking it with Kenny from Seafood. It's nothing wrong with Kenny from Seafood,
I know.
but if he's not an investor, like, you're not, you know what I mean? If
Yeah,
you want to be a real estate agent, you should hang out with real estate agents, right?
literally.
You want to be married, you want to be in a healthy relationship, hang out with people who are married and in a healthy relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like surround yourself in an environment,
And
put
don't be
yourself in a
afraid to tell
location.
people no. No. I have forever been a bougie bitch on our block. Forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was known. My daddy, my baba was really that guy too. So nobody really fucked with us like that from the jump, him and Angel. But the reality is a large part of that was like, no, I already knew. Like, I'm not about to be no neighborhood sensation. Not like that's
Oh
not for
no,
me. You know what I mean?
not the
And it's like,
neighborhood
but that
sensation.
when you get these like certain mindsets, all these things are like adding value to you. Like you are so valuable, so dynamic, so necessary to somebody's story, right? But you got to know that first. But what I'm getting at is that like I'm not saying you necessarily got to be alone to be there, but I'm just saying like it's okay to say I'm setting the standard of this, and that's what I'm leaning into. If you on Raya or Tinder or I don't know Facebook Love Group or whatever the fuck they calling it,
Not the love
I
group.
would expand it. I would be like, I'm dating in
Yeah.
New York. I'm dating in motherfucking DC. Child, I was in the streets. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, expand your repertoire. You ain't got to meet your man in Philly. You might meet him in DC. You might meet him in Maryland. You might meet him in Delaware. You know what I mean? Like, I would be expanding it because you're more, the fact that you asked that question to me means that you're broader than that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're broader than the whatever 10 block radius of Broad Street or whatever the fuck is, or 10 mile radius of that is. So it's like I'm saying that to say like it. What would if you met somebody in New York cost you? Or
Mhm.
what would it be if he lived in Maryland or DC? Who knows where your life will take you?
No, that's a fact. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So be open, honey. Be open. Get your charts mapped. Okay. Get your charts mapped. It's fun. At the very least, it's something fun to do.
Yeah.
You know what I
Mess
mean?
around with it.
Mess around with it. I did Joe's, y'all. Joe is a Pisces. I think you're a Pisces, Leo, Taurus. I really don't fuck with Leos like that. But and I don't mean that. I love a lot of Leos, but romantically. But the Taurus and the Pisces is so strong. I think that's where we kind of hit it off. Because I'm a Virgo, Scorpio.
That's a fact.
Joe don't
So
even understand what I'm
subscribe to
saying.
this
I'm
channel if you
talking
haven't
Arabic
already.
right now.
uh,
I'm speaking Arabic. He's like,
listen,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we we're
I
gonna
hope
go.
you guys like
Yeah, we're gonna
this.
go eat. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. We got a review coming of one of the restaurants we went to that'll probably be out
Super
early next week, and it was
Freako.
a dope and it was a fun night. It's a funny video. So
I don't even know what Joe got, so I'm
well,
fascinated. We're going to try some place new tonight too.
yeah.
And we'll see you beautiful mother. Bye.